Hello everyone, I'm Darshana. I was inspired to make this video after seeing this article on the Wired magazine, which is, I guess, sort of a mainstream news, mainstream magazine, and the title of the article is the statistical secrets of COVID-19 vaccines. So even though this says COVID-19 vaccines, I think the point that is highlighted in this article is relevant to most vaccines, I guess. So it's basically about this the number vaccine efficacy percentage that we have been hearing with regard to many vaccines that are out there. And so if I just read out from one paragraph, the efficacy has a specific meaning in the world of vaccine statistics, and it's not here. Hey, if I get a shot, my chance of getting COVID is now just 5%, right? No, you don't, because your chance of getting COVID wasn't 100% in the first place. See, vaccine efficacy is actually a relative risk reduction. It's a ratio comparing the risk of infection in people who got vaccinated versus people who didn't, the control group. Right? Since the basic function of a vaccine is indeed to keep people from catching a disease, you can imagine that this number can end up being pretty big, regardless of those people's chances of getting COVID. Right. So you could also calculate the absolute risk reduction. So I think this idea of relative risk reduction, that is basically what is reported in the media and most of the headlines. Now, initially, I think when the Pfizer vaccine came out, which was the first one to get the emergency approval in the US, this 95% efficacy number was really highlighted, right? So if we just and if you go to these CDC, Centers for Disease Control website, they have some information on how this efficacy is calculated. So it's basically a relative risk reduction, risk for exposed group minus risk for the unexposed group divided by the risk for exposed group. Now the risk is kind of a very abstract term, and there may be many ways to compute risk. So if we, based on what I could understand, because I'm not an expert in this area, but I was somewhat interested in to see how these numbers are calculated. So it's basically something like this, as I understand. So if we try to draw a diagram to demonstrate that. So if suppose you have the vaccinated group, so maybe the population size here is 1000, right, in your experiment, and the unvaccinated group, again 1000 people. So now you give a vaccine to this vaccinated group, and you maybe give a control to the unvaccinated group, and maybe after 1 week or 1 month or after some time you do so in the case of COVID you would do a PCR test and check for some symptoms and so on, right? And suppose after 1 month you find that in this particular group 10 people got COVID, right? In the unvaccinated group, here you may have 100 people, so because they might not have the antibodies, so more people might get COVID. Now if you compute the relative risk reduction here, it's risk reduction is 90, and the number of people in the unvaccinated group that got infected was 100, so that's 90%. Now then that particular number is the number that is highlighted a lot. But if you compute the absolute risk reduction, which is you look at the population size as well, right? What's the benefit with respect to the entire population, right? So that would be 100 minus 10 divided by the population size in each group, that is 1000, right? So that is 90, it will be 9%, right? So the absolute benefit is 9%. Absolute risk reduction, this is relative risk reduction, right? So this one actually takes into account the population size. So it's kind of a mathematically more complete measure, because here we don't really care about the population size, the sample size. It could be 1,000, it could be 1 million, it could be 10 million, whatever, right? So, and that is, I mean, relative risk reduction might have some mathematical meaning, but when you actually think of the actual population, because what people really want is to see if they get vaccinated, what is the benefit that we'll get. Okay, before coming into that, we'll look at a real world example on how this is calculated. So here I have the document, submitted by the report submitted by Pfizer to FDA, Federal Food and Drug Administration's uh, these government organization in the USA that approves these vaccines. So this is the document that they submitted to get the emergency approval. So this, we'll see how this 95% number is calculated. Yeah, so we have this table here. This is the Pfizer vaccine 7 days after the dose 2, right? And you can see this is the technical name of the vaccine, and the population size was around 18,000 people, and in the placebo group also there were around 18,000 people, right? So in this group, after 7 days, 8 people were diagnosed with COVID, and in the placebo group, 162 people were diagnosed with COVID. So this 95% is the efficacy. So how it is computed is 162 minus 8 equals divided by 162.95 something, so that's 95%, right? So that's the number that is highlighted in the media. But if we take the absolute benefit, that is 162 minus 8 divided by we'll say 18,000, because that's the population size. So this is the value, that is 0.8%, right? If you multiply this by 100, 0.8% is the absolute risk reduction. Now so I think that absolute risk reduction may be a more complete measure mathematically, because that takes into account the sample size. Because here, if we just take the relative risk reduction, that we can have 18,000 or 10,000 or 1 million people in these samples, but still the relative risk reduction will be the same, which is kind of incomplete. The other reason why the absolute risk reduction might be more relevant is that because when we see these numbers, what as individuals, what we really want to know is, by taking the vaccine, what is the level of protection that I can expect, right? Because there could be risks as well, so you have to compare the risk versus the benefit. Now to do that, actually what you really need is now here, if you take this relative risk reduction measure, you are to measure that, you are only considering the vaccinate the infected people, right? Your universal set is the group of infected people. That's how you come up with this number, this relative risk reduction. But that's not a kind of population that we live in the real world, because in the real world we live in a population where some people are vaccinated, some people are not, and some people have COVID, some people don't. So it's more like if you consider the entire population, that's only that is more relevant to the real world case, right? So So that is another reason why I think the absolute risk reduction is more pertinent when you talk about the vaccine efficacy, right? Because we are not living. So this relative risk reduction measure, it's more like a very abstract mathematical measure, whereas the absolute risk reduction is more concrete, right? It matches well to the real world case, and it will give a better indication on the benefit that you can get, or the level of protection, the percentage increase of the level of protection that you can expect from a vaccine. So why do we don't hear? I mean, if you look at uh, the literature around these COVID-19 vaccines, you don't really see even that value presented, right? And the reason is not a very, I guess, a very, so based this Wired article actually is based on a opinion or a comment that was published in Lancet, the medical journal, Lancet Microbe, called COVID-19 vaccine efficacy and effectiveness, the elephant not in the room. Right? So there these authors talk about this particular difference between the absolute risk reduction versus relative risk reduction. And one of the authors in this Wired article, he's actually giving a very kind of a not a very, I guess, a more not a very politically correct reason, which I guess is playing a part here, right? So he's saying that now if you look at the absolute risk reductions, it's for Moderna is 1.2%, and Pfizer is 0.8% that we looked at so far previously. So he says that one of the main reasons why absolute risk reduction is not shown is because of the numbers. If you say it's 95% effective, wow, says Piero Oliaro, one of the authors of that Lancet comment. An infectious disease researcher at the University of Oxford's Center for Tropical Medicine and Global Health, and one of the authors of Lancet Microbe article. But if your absolute risk reduction is like 0.8% or whatever it was, so what, right? So it's mainly due to this marketing aspect of it. That's what he says. And I think that's kind of that's the only conclusion that we can draw, because like mathematically and also conceptually, what's more relevant for the general public is the absolute risk reduction, right? But that's not highlighted in the media or even in the literature. So that's something interesting that I thought of pointing out, because I think this has been discussed in recently. There was some discussion about this. Even this Wired article, I was kind of surprised to see this, because this is sort of a mainstream magazine. But I mean, if that is discussed, right? And I think if you take it even further, even the term absolute risk reduction could be kind of misleading, I guess, because it's actually a very population specific risk reduction, right? Because you take young people, the chances of them getting COVID may anyway be low. Or if you take different countries, different demographies, these even among the unvaccinated groups, right, the chances of getting COVID may be different, right? So actually what we are measuring here, even though we call it absolute risk reduction, it's more like a population specific risk reduction, I think. And I guess that would be a better term for that, because that captures that in different populations, the benefit in different demographies, in different geographies, the benefit, the actual benefit, I guess, of getting a vaccine as a means of protection be captured that way, right? Because it's not a constant value, and relative risk reduction is anyway not. It's not really a concrete measure that may be useful for an individual to make a decision, because but when we hear that, if you don't go into these details, that's what we get, right? And we say, okay, so 95% efficacy, that means there's a 95% less chance of me getting COVID. That's not what it means, right? That's literally not what it means. It means you can't really directly translate that to the real world, because it has this universal set where everybody is infected, right? And that's not the universal set that we live in. We live in a more complex universal set where there are both infected and uninfected people, and there are both vaccinated and unvaccinated people. So yeah, so that's what I mainly wanted to point out in this video. And the point that absolute risk reduction, even though it's pretty small, right, is more relevant when you make when you want to make an individual decision to or measurement to see how effective a vaccine is in protecting you from getting an infection, and moreover that it's actually a population specific risk reduction, right? It's not really an absolute risk reduction in the absolute sense. And that may that value, I mean, if we can break down to different populations, different age groups and so on, so that will be more meaningful to determine for different genders, to different age groups, to determine whether they should get vaccinated or what's the actual benefit that they can gain from that, right? Okay, if you have any thoughts or comments, feel free to share in the comment section, and I'll share these references in the description. And see you again with a similar video. Thanks for connecting.